What's going on, everybody? It's Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast. This is the total takedown for UFC Vegas 56. Lines are brought to you by Superbook Sports, and this show is brought to you from my bed. That's right, it's still on vacation mode. Almost forgot the show, so got to knock this bad boy out quick for everybody. Of course, on this show, we go over the fights one more time. Totals, over-unders, how long do we think it'll last? So we're going to break this bad boy down real quick here for you. J.J. Aldrich versus Aaron Blanchfield kicking off the night. Total set at 2.5. The over is minus 260, and I think that makes a ton of sense. J.J. Aldrich is a decision machine. Aaron Blanchfield, I think, is somebody who's got some finishing upside. The submission attacks, the ground and pound, wearing on her opponent's gas tank with the wrestling. I do think she's got the opportunity to break some people. I just don't know that JJ's the one that's going to be the one that gives it up. JJ's training at a good camp. She's at Team Elevation, working, looking better than ever. Some high-level training partners. I could see JJ maybe just completely gassing after 15 straight minutes of grappling. She's never fought a grappler the caliber of an Aaron Blanchfield, so maybe there's like a late third round finish that over 2.5 kind of sketches me out at the last second there. But I do think it goes over. I do think it goes to the judges' scorecards at the end of the day. Over's really the only way I could look here. Renat Fakardinov taking on Andreas Michailidis. Total set at 1.5 for this one. Over 1.5 is minus 150. Under 1.5 is plus 130. And this is a fight that I really could make arguments both ways for. Both these guys dropping down a weight class. Andreas Michailidis really has been like a first rounder, just barely into the second round type of fighter recently. He's getting finished. He's not really known for his finishes in the UFC, but he's got a finisher's skill set. He's got these big bombs that he wings. He's got a BJJ black belt, unless I'm mistaken. Renat Fakardinov, a UFC debutant, who's a one-round fighter himself. I think there's some argument to be made for the under 1.5 at plus 130 being the way to go here. But it's not one I'm really interested in, especially with these guys both dropping a weight class. You never know what those gas tanks are going to look like, so I'd stay away from that one. Zhalgas Zhumagulov taking on my guy, Jeff Molina. Total set at 2.5. The over is minus 190. The under is plus 170. And I would be looking, it pains my heart to say it a little bit, but I'm looking over here. Jeff Molina, he's a volume-based striker. I do think he can open up and get some kind of a finish later on if he's able to just kind of wear on Zhalgas, the speed of his hands, the accuracy of his punches. I don't think that he gets submitted by Zhalgas Zhumagulov. I think Zhalgas is going to need to grapple with Jeff. We've also seen Jeff chin checked, and his chin is held up so far. Zhalgas, he's a big boy. He can hit pretty hard, so you never know. Maybe that fails us at this point when he takes that jump up in competition. I am not expecting it. I do think that Jeff Molina can be the one to finish Zhalgas, or this thing goes the full 15 minutes. As much as I think Jeff has an outside shot to win by knockout, I'm going to say over 2.5 at minus 190 for the sake of the show. Don't be shocked if that one goes down in flames, though. Definitely not a bet, in my opinion. Johnny Munoz taking on Tony Gravely coming up next. Total set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is plus 100 even money. Under 2.5 is minus 120. And I do think the under makes a lot of sense here. You know, Tony Gravely, a guy that uses his grappling really well, big power in his hands on the feet. Johnny Munoz Jr., a finisher himself. His striking is coming along. He's got a solid offensive submission game. I like this fight to end. Both guys definitely have that finishing upside. So let's go under. Nicholas Dolze taking on Benoit Saint-Denis. Total is set at 2.5, and this is a pick'em, minus 110 on either side. And I definitely could see an argument for both. Benoit Saint-Denis, a solid grappler, offensive wrestler. He's a guy that got his ass beat the last time we saw him, so really kind of a show and tell spot here for him. We need to see what he's got going up against a lower level opponent. But another situation where both guys are dropping a weight class. Very strange that not one but both fighters are moving down for this one. Nicolas Stolze, a guy that really accepts bottom position. That's kind of my concern with him. He's got good solid striking on the feet, strikes long, good calf kicks. But when he gets taken down, he accepts that bottom position and looks for subs off his back. I don't think he's subbing Benoit Saint-Denis off of his back. Benoit, on the other hand, I think has that submission offense from top position. He could grind out a wrestling win just by staying on top of his opponent, a must-win type of situation for both guys. So yeah, I could see either guy being a little bit desperate. I could also see both guys playing it safe. I don't want to touch this one. It's a pick'em price tag for a reason. I do think both guys have finishing upside, but Benoit showed in his last fight how tough and durable he is. I don't expect him really to go down, so I'd be leaning over more than under, but it's a very sketchy fight. We do have Alex De Silva taking on Joe Solecki coming up next. Over 2.5, minus 140. Under 2.5 is plus 120. And I again kind of want to lean on violence here just a little bit. Joe Solecki's been super tough, super durable so far in his run, so I don't know that I really expect him to get finished. But Alex De Silva, this guy just went 15 minutes with Brad Riddell the last time we saw him. He's been away for 2 years. Young dude, gonna be making improvements. I expect a better version of him here when he comes back. So you never know what you're going to get in this type of a spot, but I kind of think there is some finishing upside, and we've seen De Silva's gas tank kind of fail him. Joe Solecki's got that ground game. If he decides to push a wrestling pace and then gets on him on his back or something like that, I could see a submission. I'll say under 2.5 at plus 120, but again, the totals are really tricky on this card, guys. I'll be honest. I'm not playing a lot from a totals perspective. Karolina Kowalkiewicz taking on Felice Herrig, total set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 300. Under 2.5 is plus 250. Stay far away from this one, guys. You all know the story by this point. Karolina Kowalkiewicz coming off her retirement fight, getting bludgeoned in her last couple fights. Felice Herrig coming off surgeries and a massive, massive layoff. I expect this one to go over, but if either one of these women shows a new wrinkle since we've last seen them, or, just basically drops the ball, this one very easily could get finished. So just don't bet this one. Definitely don't parlay that over, because it could go down in flames here. And the talk of the town here, Askar Mozharov, sorry about that, Askar, taking on Alonzo Menifield, total set at 1.5. The over 1.5 is plus 180, the under 1.5 minus 205. This is under all day, folks. I mean, after hearing all the stuff about this guy's padded record, the name change, Tapology shifted him from being like a 20-2 fighter to now he's like 19-12 or something crazy like that. Absolute insanity what is going on this week with this guy. But that doesn't change the fact that he comes out round one or bust. He takes his ball and goes home when things don't go his way. But he's hell on wheels for as long as he decides to fight. Those leg kicks that he throws are vicious. I don't think this thing is getting out of the first round. The under 1.5, that price is steep. Minus 205, I don't like it, but that's got to be the way you have to look here. Zarrukh Adashev taking on Ode Osborne. We've got Zarrukh and Ode minus 125 to the over 2.5. Under 2.5 is plus 105 for this one. And I think it's going over. I've been really struggling on this one. I kind of have like a weird Zarrukh Adashev round 3 type of feeling at this point. I think that he's going to be able to pull something off when Ode slows down. But if Ode doesn't quite death gas, if he's fixed just a little bit of that, he slows and paces himself, then this fight is probably a 15-minute kickboxing match with a couple of little spurts of grappling mixed in that don't really do anything to anybody. So I'm going to say over 2.5 at minus 125 on this one is probably the look. Karine Silva taking on Pauliano Botello. Women's MMA total set at 2.5. The over is minus 165. The under is plus 145. And I would be looking violence here. That plus 145 number doesn't sound bad to me at all. Karine Silva, we saw her submission upside on the Contender Series. She's very aggressive. She comes hot. She hits hard, and then she looks to choke you out. Now, her opponent, Pauliano Botello, we've seen her taken down. We've seen her struggle to get off her back when she's been on the mat. But as a striker, she's vicious. When she gets on the feet, she swings bombs. She absolutely goes for it. I think that the body attacks that she brings are going to be a problem for Karine Silva as long as she can stay on the feet. That 80% takedown defense, we're going to need that to hold up here. But I think she has the ability to TKO Silva on the feet. If this thing does go to the ground, both women can do the submission thing. Karine Silva actually has a couple losses by sub, so don't count out Pauliano Botello snapping up a women's MMA armbar from guard type of situation. The under is definitely in play here. Plus 145, under 2.5. I like that. Lucas Almeida taking on Mike Trizano. Total set again at 2.5. The over minus 185. The under plus 165. And I would be looking at the under here, believe it or not. Mike Trizano is a guy who, I bet on him last time against Hakeem Dawodu. I thought he was going to be able to clip Hakeem, and Hakeem has just never looked better than he did in his last fight, and made me rethink how I felt about Mike Trizano in general, because that fight was so dominant. But the fact is, he's fighting a guy who lost on the Dana White Contender Series and is a UFC debutant. He should win this one. He really should win this one. And he's talking in the interviews about wanting to get a finish. He's sick of going the 15 minutes. He's sick of going to the judges. And if he comes out with any kind of intent to finish this fight, Lucas Almeida throws heavies. This guy comes hard in these fights. So I wouldn't be surprised if either one of these guys got clipped and went down, especially if Mike is coming out not pushing a 15-minute pace, but rather more of a 5 or a 7-minute pace. So under 2.5 at plus 165. It's sketchy, but that's kind of the way I'd look here. Movsar Evloev taking on Danny Ige in your co-main event. Total set again at 2.5. Lots of 2.5s this week. Over 2.5 is minus 375. Under 2.5 is plus 310. If you're going to believe Movsar Evloev, he will finish Danny Ige in round 1. So under at plus 310 doesn't sound half bad. But no, really, Movsar Evloev is more of a decision guy. He's a grinder. He likes that body lock. He just kind of jumps on people and hangs. And Danny Ige has been very tough. Very, very tough. Fought a lot of really potent finishers. Hasn't been a problem for him. I don't want to question this guy's durability. I want to say the over 2.5, but minus 370. What are you going to do? I can't do anything with that. I do think there's a chance Movsar gets the back of Danny Ige and finds a way to either like flatten him and pound him out or choke him out. But we've seen Danny Ige's defense and durability hold up. He knows how to scramble in those situations and survive. So I'm not going to question him until we actually see him taken out by somebody. Main event time, Jairzinho Rozenstruik taking on Alexander Volkov. Total set at 3.5 for this fun one. Over 3.5 is minus 130. Under 3.5 is plus 110. And yeah, I would be... I'm so torn on this fight, you guys. Really. I mean, over 3.5 just seems like it makes too much sense. Like, Alexander Volkov playing it safe, striking long, doing what he does. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, staring contest. We've seen it time and time again. This guy's got the death touch, so we're always worried about him touching somebody and having them just absolutely fold in on themselves and the fight being over super quick, but it never goes that way. Like, he never actually does that unless your name is Augusto Sakai. Nobody's folding over that quickly. So we probably see a kickboxing match. And both these guys have been playing weird games, talking about, this guy doesn't want to stand with me, this and that. Somebody's going to shoot a takedown. I guarantee somebody's going to look to grapple in this fight and surprise the other, especially after, the last fight with Volkov. We saw him get taken down and just absolutely handled on the mat. Like, both guys are going to be thinking grappling to some extent. So I do think this fight could get extended. I think over 3.5 makes sense. But, God, I'm not betting an over whenever Jairzinho Rozenstruik is in play. I learned my lesson when I bet on Alistar over him that one time. Like, I'm not doing it. So this fight could be over in the first, minute of the fight, just because that's the way Jairzinho does when he comes in motivated with a chip on his shoulder. But if it's a normal Jairzinho fight, then this thing is probably going to go over, and we're all going to be sweating those last 3 or 4 minutes when he realizes he needs a knockout to actually win the fight. That's the Total Takedown, folks. Sorry for the quick and relaxed experience this week. I'll be back at home base next week, and the show is going to be back on track. Keep your eyes out for the Undefeated post-weigh-in show. It's going to be late tomorrow, guys, because like I said, I'll be on the road. I'm headed home, so it will be a little bit late tomorrow, but we will eventually get there. Thank you very much. Smash that like button. Good luck on all your degenerate action. We'll talk to you guys soon.